Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. And in today's video we are actually going to be discussing the top 5 best survivor perks in the entire game. That is, of course, Dead by Daylight. So let's go ahead and get into this. Coming in at number 5, we actually have Spine Chill. So let's go ahead and look at it. Spine Chill will light up whenever a killer is looking in your direction and standing within a 36-meter range. While it's active, skill check trigger odds are increased by 10%, which really doesn't matter. You should be able to hit skill checks. The success zones are reduced by 10%, which again, a 10% out of 100%, that's not much at all. So those two don't really matter. But it's the fact that this perk lights up when you're in a game, and it shows you that the killer is looking at you. And the simple fact, also while Spawn Chill is active, which means when the killer is looking at you, you gain a 6% speed increase to almost everything in the game. I mean, repairing, sabotaging, healing, unhooking, vaulting, cleansing, opening exit gates, and searching. So almost every single survivor option in the game is increased. The only things that aren't increased are like recovery speed and throwing down pallets. That's it. Those are like the only two things that aren't affected by Spawn Chill. But what makes Spawn Chill so effective is the fact that killers that are silent, which there are quite a few of them, you have Wraith, you have Ghostface, and then if you include the killers that have really small tear radiuses, including Hag, Huntress, Spirit, and then Deathslinger, if you include all of those, they have a 24-meter tear radius. This is effective for 36 meters, so that little surprise jump that they get for being slow killers is non-existent. You will know when they're coming. Also, if those killers happen to be running Monitor and Abuse, which decreases their tear radius to 16 meters, which is extremely small, especially on Deathslinger, he can get with, like, you only start to really hear his tear radius at like 12 meters, and at that point you're gonna get shot basically. Spine Chill is a lifesaver. It is phenomenal. I run it in almost every single build just because it is one of my favorite perks. It's probably my second favorite perk in the entire game. Actually third, but let's make it third. And I just really think it is the 5th best perk in the entire game. Coming in at number 4, we actually have Unbreakable. So this one's really simple. We'll just go ahead and read it. Grants the ability to fully recover from the dying state once per trial, and then increases your dying recovery speed by 35% for the entire trial. So let me explain why this is so good. So Unbreakable on its own is already an extremely good perk, and we're only looking at it on its own. We're not looking at it with combos. But if you were looking at it at combos, Unbreakable and Decisive Strike is the best combo in the game, hands down. The ability to, after getting unhooked and perhaps the killer slugging you, the fact that you can get up no matter what for an entire minute is extremely strong. But just looking at the perk and not the perk combo, let's just go ahead and create a scenario. There's an Oni, okay, a really good Oni. He gets his power, and let's just say that it is a cold one map where you're all in the same area. He's already got one down. He then activates his power. He has Modern Abuse and Infectious Fright. Right, so his tear radius is dang big. It's 40 meters. You're within 40 meters of it. When he downs somebody, he then runs to you, downs you, and then downs another guy. He picks up that guy, and well, it looks like the game's over. All 4 people on the ground, you know, he's just gonna go pick up everybody. But here's the thing, he downed you, then wasted, let's just say 10-15 seconds, 20, something like that, going and down in the last survivor. Your bar's not 50% done. He picks him up, hooks him, he then goes to another survivor. As soon as he picks him up, you pop your Unbreakable to get right back up. You then go to the other survivor and pick them up. Boom, which was about to be a 4K for the Oni has now become a, guess what, longer game. He now has to continue to play the game when he was probably like, heck yeah, that was an amazing play by me and I slugged all of them. Yeah, it's just all gone because of one perk, because of holding R1. I'm a little biased towards this perk. I personally do not like it. I think that it is too strong, how you can just ruin an entire good play by killer, again, by just slugging. And then it with Decisive Strike is nasty as crap, but I also cannot deny its powerfulness in chase, so that's why it's coming in at number 4. Coming in at number 3 is actually 2 perks, and I think that they're vice versa, and it's of course going to be your exhaustion perks, which I think would be Sprint Burst or Dead Hard. So we'll look at Sprint Burst first. So whenever you first run, as long as you do not have exhaustion, you will then break into a sprint at 150% movement speed for a maximum of 3 seconds. When it means maximum, it just means you're going to do it for 3 seconds. I don't know why it says maximum. It makes it sound like you won't sprint for less than that, but I mean, if you're sprinting, you're going to get all 3. I kind of don't get that, but other than that, it's an exhaustion perk. You using it makes it to where you're exhausted for 40 seconds. You don't recover from the exhausted stat effect while running. So let's go ahead. I mean, it's a really simple perk. You sprint, you go fast, and you no longer go fast after 3 seconds. Really, really simple. But it's the fact that if a killer is coming to your generator, you see them, and then what would be a free hit for them, you use Sprint Burst, you're then able to gain distance and make it to a loop, so they done lost the hit. If you're a really good survivor and you 99 your Sprint Burst, and what I mean by this is whenever you get your exhaustion to literally a split second away. Like, you can stop running for a split second and it disappears, and then you can use Sprint Burst. So if you're in a chase and you're about to get hit or something, maybe you made a misplay, you can stop running for a split second and then break into that Sprint Burst. And if the killer thinks that he's actually going to get a hit, he may even swing and lose even more distance on you. So it is a extremely good perk. The other one, however, is Dead Hard. This one doesn't give you as much distance, like whenever you look at it in terms of statistics, but in a chase, it can actually get you more distance, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and look at it. Press the active ability button while running to dash forward, which for me is X. It's a base for console to be X. You can put it as anything that you want, but anyways, during the dash you avoid damage. I'm gonna have to put in here that with dedicated servers you have to use Dead Hard earlier than you used to, or else you will use it but the server won't see you use it for some reason. I don't get it. So Dead Hard actually ends up not working. Like, you will press it and you'll go down and it'll say you're exhausted, and the exhaustion stat effect will, like, it will move away. That's one of the main reasons I get frustrated with it. If it worked 100% of the time like last time, it would be probably second, but just because of that fact, it's actually third. And then, of course, the fact that it causes you to be exhausted for 40 seconds and you don't recover from the exhausted status effect while running. So the little dash that you do, it's not a lot of distance. It's a little bit of distance, like pretty minimal. But it's the fact that, one, you do get that bit of distance. Even though it's just a tiny bit, that tiny bit can end up saving your life. And also, you avoid damage. So here's the scenario with Dead Hard. Let's say you are running to a pallet loop, but the killer is actually right on your tail. You see that you're not going to make it. He also sees that you're not going to make it. Like, you're going to make it to the pallet, but you're going to die on top of the pallet. But guess what? You've got Dead Hard equipped. You press your active ability button, which for me is X. You press X, you then dash forward, and you make it to the pallet. He then panics, maybe swings, and you get a stun on him. Now you're at a regular pallet loop, and let's just say Auto Haven, and he can't really do much. He can try and mind game you, but this pallet's pretty safe. He's going to waste a lot of time. He may end up destroying it, and in destroying it, you gain a lot of distance. So literally, when you compare Sprint Burst and Dead Hard, Sprint Burst is going to get you more distance. However, if you look at it in a game sense, Dead Hard could get you more distance, because Dead Hard can get you to a pallet or a window where you wouldn't be able to on its own, and then you're able to survive for much longer, which in turn makes your life longer and you get more distance. So if any of this is making, I know it's kind of hard to understand, but if this makes sense, then you get it, and if it doesn't, I'm sorry that I'm not explaining it very well. But yeah, so you can use whichever one of these that you want. You can use Sprint Burst, you can use Dead Hard. Most players end up using Sprint Burst just because it is objectively better, but for those who don't want to just use kind of, in my opinion, a mindless perk, you can then use Dead Hard, which is what I run in almost every single build. So yeah, that's why they are coming in at number 3. Coming in at number 2 is, of course, going to be Decisive Strike. You knew it was going to come in at the list. You probably thought it was going to come in at number 1, but no, in my opinion, there is one more perk that is actually better than Decisive Strike. So let's go ahead and read it. You know what? We're not going to read it. Let me sum it up. Okay. So you get unhooked from the hook. You now have 60 seconds where Decisive Strike is active. What this means is if you get grabbed out of a locker, grabbed off of a pallet, grabbed off of a window, picked up from the dying state, or anything that involves the killer basically putting you on his shoulders, you then get to use it. You are then going to be faced with what they call a very hard skill check, but it's moderately hard. I mean, it's just an overcharged skill check, so it's moderately hard. You're basically not going to miss it if you just practice with it, but you'll be faced with that skill check. You fail, you've then wasted your perk for the entire match. Kind of harsh, but again, it needs to be harsh with the payoff that you get. And if you do hit it, well, then you stun the killer for 5 seconds. So it takes 1 second for you to stun them, and then you have 4 full seconds to go wherever you want while the killer is stuck looking in one direction with like a hand over their face, or looking at the ground in Hag's case, and then they go back to chasing you. So you gain 4 full seconds of distance, and if you're not running right in front of their screen, then they can't even tell where you are, which may cost them a couple milliseconds of just finding where you went. So it is an extremely good perk that really doesn't have many downsides. If you run it, you're not going to see use with it every game. Okay, there's going to be killers that do not tunnel just because they're respectful and or don't want to deal with Decisive Strike, but those times where killers do tunnel, or they don't care about Decisive Strike, and you have it, you can then use it, and you will avoid an entire hook state. So basically, you have 3 hook states, 2 of which you can get off from and continue being in the match, and on that 3rd one, you're done. Dunzo. Dead. Gone forever. So, in other words, since you only have 3, Decisive Strike takes a hook for you. It's like you gain an extra hook state, because you can make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes in this game. That's why you're given 3 chances on the hook. But in case you make a mistake that was not good, it was stupid, one of those where you're like, how could I do that? Why did I fall for that? Or in my case, it's like, how does that hit? You know, one of them. Decisive Strike comes in, they pick you up, you use it, bam. You didn't just use one of your hook states, you used one of your 4 perks. So it's an extremely good perk, especially paired with Unbreakable. It is unbeatable. It honestly, it needs a nerf, but again, is extremely good. I, again, don't like personally running it. It's like Unbreakable. It's so good and needs a nerf that I don't like using perks that I think need a nerf. Spawn Shell's fine. Dead Hard is fine. It just needs to be fixed. Dead Hard does. And then number 1, it just also needs to be fixed. It's got a couple bugs, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. But yeah, that's why Decisive Strike is coming in at number 4. So we actually have 2 honorable mentions before we get to number 1, and that is going to be Adrenaline and Borrowed Time. So let's look at these. Adrenaline, you know what, I'm gonna simplify this all for you. When the last generator is done and the exit gates are powered, then if you are in the dying state, you go to the injured state. If you're in the injured state, you go to the healthy state. And sadly, if you are in the deep wound status effect, if you're in that effect, then it just gets rid of deep wound for you. I know, kind of a rough deal if you ask me. I think it should get rid of that and put you in the healthy, because like an entire adrenaline just to get rid of a bloody screen, not a really good trade-off. But again, if you're not in the deep wound, if you're in the dying state or the injured state, you gain an entire health state. If you're in the healthy, you don't get that part from it, and you sprint at 150% normal. You sprint at 150% speed for 5 seconds, and then you get exhausted for 40 seconds. Also, if you're asleep, like if you're against a Freddy and you're asleep, you'll be woken up. And if you're not able to use adrenaline at the moment, like if you're on a hook, killer's like if you're on a hook, or if you're on the shoulder and you can use it whenever you get off the shoulder or whenever you get off the hook, it will then activate. So It does what Sprint Burst does, except better, but the only problem is Sprint Burst can be used multiple times in a match, while Adrenaline can only be used once. Are the payouts of Adrenaline good? Yes, very good, especially if you're injured. Most people that run Adrenaline actually decide not to heal if there's only one gen left, because they can just use Adrenaline to heal, and then they can use that speed boost to get to an exit gate and go ahead and start opening it. If you're in a chase and you're injured, guess what? Not only do you get healed, but you also sprint away from the killer for 5 seconds, going really dang fast, so you gain massive distance on them. You can go get to another loop or something like that. Adrenaline is just a really good perk, but the reason it's not on this list is because of 2 reasons. One, it's outranked by NOED. NOED is an adrenaline killer. It just completely knocks it out. Like, if you have adrenaline and then the killer has NOED, your adrenaline's basically useless. You get the speed boost from it, yeah, but that health state, it doesn't matter because the killer's got NOED. And secondly, it's the fact that if the last generator is completed, I don't know why, but every single time I run adrenaline, either I don't get much use out of it, like I'm already healthy and it doesn't really matter, or I don't even get to use it because my team is incompetent and dies before we can get the last gen done. So it's a very high risk, high reward perk, like Unbreakable or Decisive Strike. A lot of high risk, high reward perks are on this list, and that's because, again, they have such a good reward that it is totally worth it. But is this perk good? Yes, it is easily a really good perk. That's why it's on this list. But do I think it's a top 5 perk? No, I personally think it's probably 6. And then if this is 6, then borrowed time has to be 7. So this one is a little hard to understand if you don't know what it does. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So somebody's on the hook, alright? You're running to get the save. The killer is near them proxy camping or just camping, alright? And you walk up to them and you're within the killer's terror radius. If you then unhook them while in the killer's terror radius, they are given the endurance status effect, which means that if they get hit by the killer while in the status effect, they will then, instead of going into the dying state, they will go into the deep wound state, where all they have to do is mend and they won't go down. And if they do get hit with the endurance status effect on them, by the way, you have 15 seconds to use that status effect. Very long. It's very good if a survivor, if the killer actually doesn't decide to tunnel on you. You know, we'll get into that later. But again, it lasts for, the endurance status effect lasts for 15 seconds. So you have 15 seconds in which the killer cannot really hit you without you getting away. And then you have 20 seconds to mend yourself, which is a pretty long time. Borrowed time is good in all situations, so let me explain. If the killer is proxy camping, here's what you can do. You get the save, alright, they get the save on you. You are unhooked, you have borrowed time. Their killer comes back, tunnels you. You then run away after getting hit so that you don't go down, alright? He doesn't tunnel you, in fact, tries to go after the other guy. The other guy gets hit or just runs to something and the killer is about to go there. You can then get in the way of them. You can block them from going there, and then they're probably going to hit you, which means that your teammate gets away and now you get away because you've taken a borrowed time hit for them, which is really good. Alright, let's say the killer is camping. They're literally just face camping you, standing right in front of you, making it to where you don't get off the hook. Again, if he goes after you, you have borrowed time. You take the hit, you either leave the match because they're probably only going to camp you in game, or you run to something and start looping to stay alive. If he goes after him, same thing. If he gets hit or something like that, you then run behind him and take the borrowed time hit. It is good in all situations, and is in my opinion better than Decisive Strike, but it's the fact that you have to rely on a teammate to use this. You cannot run this perk and it be used on you, and that's why it's so low. If it was a perk that where you could use it for yourself as well, like if you ran this and then you got unhooked, you had the endurance status effect, it would easily be second or first. Like, there's no competition, but you have to rely on your teammates to bring it, which you truly can't rely on your teammates to bring it unless you're in a 3 to 4 man survivor friends, in which you can rely on 2 or all of your teammates to run it, and so you don't have to run Decisive Strike. So that's why it is an honorable mention. And now, coming in at number 1 as the best survivor perk in the entire game, we have, well, actually, let's see which one you can guess. I'll give you 3 options: Iron Will, Quick and Quiet, Tenacity. Which one? Yeah, okay, if you didn't guess Iron Will, you haven't played this game a lot. Iron Will is a very simple perk. Let's talk about it. So, whenever you get hit, Iron Will activates. Grunts of pain, that is, grunts of pains that are caused by injuries are reduced by 100%. So, in other words, when you're injured, you do not moan and groan and all of that crap. Now, compared to Adrenaline or Decisive Strike, this seems really basic, you know? I mean, hell, sorry. I mean, heck, it's a green perk. Why is it number 1? Because like I mentioned earlier, it's a bugged perk. Instead of just removing your grunts of pain, it like takes away all sounds made when you're injured. So whenever, let's just say that you have Iron Will, it may not bug out and you only take away your pain, which is extremely good. But let's just say it does bug out and it takes away all of your sound. Falling, no sound. Running, no sound. Grunts of pain, no sound. It's very buggy at the moment. Audio is buggy in this game, and this just increases its chance to be buggy. But let's just say if it's not bugged, it's just a really good perk. If you're a good killer, or if you have a good headset and you play killer, then you can agree that if a survivor doesn't have Iron Will and you're trying to mind game them at a unseeable loop or jungle gym or something like that, the ability to hear them is so good at pinpointing where they are and making your mind games so much better. Also, getting flashlighted at a pallet or something like that, you're going to break the pallet, they flashlight you. If they don't have Iron Will and try and go past you, or if you just go forward and still hear them, you can then use the surround sound in your headset to pinpoint where they are and look at the ground, and as soon as you are unblinded, you then, guess what? You look up, and there they are. They haven't gained any distance from the flashlight beam that they hoped they would gain distance from, because you could simply hear them. And now, let's take all these scenarios and put it in with Iron Will. Actually, let's throw in one more scenario. So, let's say that you're waiting for the flashlight to save, but you're injured, so you're making pain. They go down, the killer's about to pick them up, but guess what? He hears grunts of pain that isn't this bill coming from the ground. It sounds like a female. He starts checking around. He uses his surround sound to pinpoint on you, and now you're gonna go down because of your moaning and groaning for not having Iron Will and being injured. Now, let's put Iron Will in all of these situations. You're at a pallet loop, okay? He tries to listen to you to see if he can mind game you. He doesn't hear anything, so he guesses wrong. You're actually on the other side of the jungle gym, and you've now made it. You've either gotten distance or you've made it to the window, and guess what? That mind game did not pay off. The pallet thing, let's say you blind him. He goes to listen for you, goes forward, but you've done walked up beside him, and because you have Iron Will, he doesn't hear you, so you then zoom by and gain massive distance on him. And then the third one, let's just say that again you're waiting for the flashlight save, and even though you're injured, you've got Iron Will. They go down, they listen for a second, they only hear the down survivors moaning and groaning, so they then pick them up, you run out, you get the flashlight save. So in every situation that there is in this game, Iron Will is amazing. It is phenomenal. If you have this perk, you should use it. There's a little bit of irony to this perk that I'm just going to throw in as a bonus, and it's the fact that when everybody ran self-care, Iron Will was seen as one of the worst perks in the game. And now that everybody has adopted the playstyle of do gens, stay injured, don't use self-care and waste 32 seconds, you know, and it's become one of the best perks, which I find just really ironic and kind of funny. But with all the things that I've mentioned, that's why Iron Will is the best survivor perk in the entire game. In the entire game. With all the things that I've mentioned, that is why Iron Will is the best survivor perk in the entire game. Before the video ends, I want to mention a few things. One, this is entirely my opinion. You can disagree all you want. I expect a lot of you to disagree. Two, running the top 4 best survivor perks in this, will it make you a better player if you're not using these? Yes. But are these perks meant for you? No. Everybody needs their own setup. Even though I think that these are the top 4 best survivor perks in the game, well, the top 5, but just talking about these 4 for a second, even though I put these as the 4 best survivor perks in the game, I'm not saying you should only run these. I personally don't use Decisive or Unbreakable. I simply don't like them in their top 4 survivor perks. I'd rather use Vault Speed build with Iron Will and Dead Hard. That's personally what I use. So you really need to experiment with all the perks. I'm not saying you should go run Slippery Meat and Deja Vu or none of that garbage, but I am saying that you should look at some of the good survivor perks that actually have a benefit, run them, and see which ones that you like using, that you are good with. The perks are meant to help you, but for you also to have more fun in the trial, if any of this makes sense. So use perks that you have fun with. Try and make sure that they're good if you can, but in the end, use perks that you like. Lastly, I'm just going to ask you to like and subscribe, because liking the video lets me know that you want to see more like these, and subscribing lets me know even more that you want to see more videos like these. So go ahead, like, and of course subscribe. Hit the bell as well so that you'll be notified when another video like this, or just another video made by me, comes out on the channel. Other than that, guys, I hope you guys did enjoy, and well, nothing much else to say, so I will talk to you all in another video. Goodbye.